So the Department of Justice has asked a judge to dismiss a lawsuit that was filed against Donald Trump, Bill Barr, and others for the violent clearing of the protesters from Lafayette Square. Let's talk about whether that was the right position for the Department of Justice to take, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So over the course of the day, I've had so many requests from our Team Justice friends on social media to address a story that broke late yesterday. The story involves the Department of Justice asking a judge to throw out, to dismiss the lawsuit that had been brought against Donald Trump, Bill Barr, and others for the violent clearing of protesters from Lafayette Square so Donald Trump could walk across the street and stand in front of a church for a photo op. Now, I want to read a piece that ran today in the Huffington Post. I'm going to read it at some length because I think it does a nice job setting up the discussion that we're going to have, okay? So the headline reads, DOJ asks judge to toss ACLU suit against Trump over Lafayette Square violence. And the article begins, the Justice Department asked a federal judge on Friday to dismiss a lawsuit filed by the American Civil Liberties Union against former President Donald Trump for the violence against protesters a year ago at Lafayette Square in Washington, D.C. Demonstrators protesting the police killing of George Floyd were brutally cleared from the space by law enforcement officers using stun grenades, pepper balls, smoke, and batons so that Trump could walk from the White House across the square to St. John's Baptist Church, where he posed with a Bible for a photo op. The leader of the church was, quote, outraged, close quote. It was used for the cynical stunt. A National Guard major on the scene complained that officers used excessive force against protesters, and the Australian government called for an investigation after journalists from the nation were brutally beaten by police. The ACLU quickly filed suit against Trump, as well as former Attorney General William Barr and other officials, on behalf of Black Lives Matter and individual protesters for the unconstitutional and, quote, frankly criminal attack, close quote. The suit argued that Trump and Barr unlawfully conspired to deprive the demonstrators of their civil rights. But DOJ attorneys argued Friday that Trump and other officials are immune from lawsuits over police actions taken to protect a president. They also said further attacks on protesters are unlikely now that Trump is no longer president, the Washington Post reported. President Joe Biden and his administration do not share Trump's hostility toward the racial justice movement, the DOJ noted. Now, it doesn't surprise me that the Department of Justice would take the position that a president can go where he wants, when he wants, and that federal law enforcement and security services have the authority, in fact, the responsibility, to make the environment safe for the president. So in that framework, the president and the law enforcement officials who were involved in making the environment safe that day would in fact have some limited immunity against being sued, because when you're a government official and you're performing duties that fall within the scope of your official government duties and responsibilities, you can't be sued. You do have limited immunity. Let me use an example. If Congress passed legislation and sent it to the president's desk, and the president vetoed that legislation, and that angered a group of citizens, and they sued the president for vetoing legislation, that suit would be thrown out Why? Because the president has the authority to veto legislation. That's an act that falls within the scope of his official presidential duties. So he can't be sued. He has limited immunity. So if the president were to sign legislation or veto legislation, he can't be sued. But say the president didn't sign or veto the legislation. Instead, he wrote a whole bunch of provisions into the bill that was sent to him by Congress, provisions that Congress never passed, and he tried to make that the law. He could be sued. Why? Because that's not within the scope of his official duties as president. He doesn't get to add stuff to a bill that was sent to him by Congress. So, the question in this lawsuit becomes, was the president and Bill Barr and the others acting within the scope of their official governmental duties such that they can't be sued? Well, let's see. Peaceful protesters and reporters, members of the media, had gathered in Lafayette Square to do what? To exercise their protected, their guaranteed constitutional rights, their First Amendment rights, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to peaceably assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's what those protesters, that's what those reporters and media members were doing. And frankly, our government has a responsibility to protect and allow them to exercise those guaranteed First Amendment rights. However, Donald Trump and Bill Barr decided those protesters had to be cleared from Lafayette Square, violently so. We saw it with our own eyes. And they decided, those protesters and reporters had to be violently cleared from Lafayette Square because the president wanted to walk across the street, stand in front of a building in which he never worshiped, hold up a book that he never read for a political photo op. So there is an issue to be resolved in this litigation. And that issue is, were Donald Trump and Bill Barr acting within the scope of their official government duties such that they were entitled to order the violent, assaultive conduct against the citizens who were exercising their constitutional rights? Now, maybe the suit will be successful, maybe it won't be successful, but it should not be dismissed until that question is litigated and resolved. So that's where I part ways with the current Department of Justice. This case should not be dismissed. This case should move to the next phase, which is discovery. And Donald Trump and Bill Barr and others should be made to sit for depositions, and they should be questioned about why a photo op dictated that Lafayette Square had to be violently cleared of people who were exercising their protected First Amendment rights. Were you acting within the scope of your official governmental duties? Now, folks, let me finish with this. Let's not lose sight of all of the good that the Department of Justice has been doing lately. Hang with me for just 1 minute. Because we have seen Merrick Garland's Department of Justice open pattern or practice investigations into the potentially racist policies and operations of police departments. Minneapolis, Louisville. Bill Barr never did anything like that. We saw Merrick Garland's Department of Justice bring civil rights prosecutions, criminal charges against the 4 police officers who killed George Floyd. And the DOJ didn't do it because it was cleaning up Minnesota's mess, because Minnesota failed to bring charges or failed to try to hold those officers accountable. because they're being prosecuted. One, Chauvin, was already successfully prosecuted and convicted for killing George Floyd. So the Department of Justice wasn't playing cleanup. They were bringing those criminal civil rights charges because it was the right thing to do, to hold police officers accountable and to vindicate the rights of the victim and the victim's family and the community. And the Department of Justice approved a search warrant for Rudy Giuliani to try to find evidence of crime in Rudy Giuliani's stuff that a judge concluded there was probable cause to believe would be found in Rudy Giuliani's stuff. So the Department of Justice has been doing so many things in the interest of the American people. But I think they got this one wrong. And here is what is perhaps most important in this post-Trump federal government. The Department of Justice can't go about doing partial justice. It has to do complete justice. So I hope this lawsuit moves forward, because justice matters. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.